All right, welcome everybody to another episode of This, That, and the Other. I'm your host, Magic. We're joined today by jhunterz and kas1007. Now, one of the big complaints we've received is that even though we can see the names on the screen right now, the recording does not put the names on the screen when it's being played back. So although we can see the names now, once we're done, they disappear. So jhunterz, raise your hand so everybody knows who you are. There you go. And I'm Magic, so that must mean that you are kas1007. And look at that, you're Stacy now, or Sarah rather. So, it's showing that Michael is with us, but we've not been able to hear from him or get any kind of input that he's with us. So we're just going to take for granted that he is. Hopefully some others will come and join us and get in here and ask their questions. But as we do with all the shows in an introductory phase of our panelists, we're going to go ahead and mention a little bit about you guys. I'll start with jhunterz. He goes by Daryl, and he's been a member since April of 2008. Over 2,100 wins, just 329 losses, and carries an 868 winning percentage, 87 conference championships, and 9 national championships. So that's his resume. And in Kas, he's got a membership that's been in place since December of 2010 with over 3,100 victories and 1,100 plus losses, a winning percentage of 727 with 52 conference championships and 9 national championships. And he cheated to get every one of those.
That's right. That's right.
So, guys, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Kas.
Well, I work in education, and I'm a former. I say former because I haven't done it in about 3 years. I'm a former football coach. Even though every time I see football on the TV, I'm gravitating towards it.
Yep, I know that feeling.
I kind of started just playing the game just because I think back in about 2009, actually, I played the baseball version with the Phillies as a professional team for a few seasons. And, I had fun with it. At the time, it was very different. I think you could get more games in sooner. But when I found this game, I was just like, all right, it's something to do in the off season. It's some fun to have, and that's pretty much it, work, teaching, and then every now and then sneaking away to get recruiting in or do a little bit of scouting on jhunterz and see what high-powered offense he's going to throw at me. Especially in the days when he was winning what 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever in a row that he has.
Yeah.
I was happy that Pete was gone, and the next thing you know, here comes this guy.
Hey, Daryl, have you got your headphone or earpiece near a microphone by any chance? I'm picking up some feedback.
No, mine shut off. They wasn't doing any good. So.
Okay, it disappeared. Nope, there it goes again. Kas, is that you? Might be Michael. I don't know.
It might be. Let me check. My stereo's not on, but
that was it.
That was it.
No, it's back again. It must not be you. It's back. So it's not me because it's been on every other show. But anyway, regardless, the folks just have to suffer through it. I mean, they're not paying for this, so they get what they get. Kas, do you mind sharing where you're from? What part of the country?
So I'm from the East Coast, Philadelphia.
Of course.
Philadelphia, but now I moved outside the suburbs a bit. So I am very happy with. I know there were times when I flew out to the West Coast and I was in California for work or business or whatever, and I knew the discussion was about the recruiting times. I'm perfectly happy with the 3, the 6, the 12, except on the day after recruiting when I have to wait till 12 o'clock at night or 12 in the morning if I want to get my freshmen some playing time.
Yeah, that's a tough one to do. You're struggling with exactly how much are they going to improve playing one game, or do I really need this sleep?
It is. And stealing, which is always a good thing, stealing from all the coaches that are on here, one thing I found out, and you know, you always talk about a bit of information to give to the newbies.
Mm-hmm.
Get your freshmen a 2 games experience.
Yes.
The work ethic will improve, even if they don't play and they get that one little itty bump. That little itty bump will help them for the rest of the season if they're redshirting.
Yeah,
But I
especially at the
found that it
front
helped
end.
me.
Yeah, you know, at the front end, and this kind of sounds contradictory, but if you're getting a 1 or 2 point bump when your core for work ethic, for instance, is 20, and you're moving up from 20 to 22, that's a substantial percentage of your overall. And that can happen in a matter of 1 or 2 games. When they're seniors and their work ethic is up at, 50 or 40, it may take 4 or 5 games to see that same 1 or 2 point increase. So, get as much as you can early on to establish that solid foundation. And then over the seasons, the increase is exponential, and it makes a difference all the way across the board. I've noticed in growing some of those other categories as well. Daryl, what do you think about that as far as getting players early playing time?
Yeah, I totally agree. My biggest issue is just remembering what day it is that I need to, because I try and get my recruiting done as quick as possible. I try and get it done as quick as possible, and then towards the end, I forget. And then I'm lucky if well, like tonight, what was it? It's in, I just joined like Hayes or Yost or something like that. I'm in Division III and totally forgot about it. And I didn't. So I just noticed today's the last day of recruiting, so I had to go in, and I'm only getting 2 games, so I missed my third.
Yeah,
but
I'm guilty.
That's my biggest issue, is just remembering. So, but yeah, I mean, if you can get it on there, that's the best thing to do. Every game helps. Comes to practice and stuff, but yeah, it's just me brain farting is my biggest problem.
Yeah, I see that as increasing with me the longer I play the game, and you think it would quit. But I've found myself doing things out of or miss doing things because I think I've done them already. You play so much, you get into that routine, you're like, man, I know I game planned for this game. I would not miss game planning for such a big event. Then you come back and you're like, oh man, I had my sim game planned. What was I thinking? You kick yourself. And a lot of new coaches, actually, in my position, or my guess is, they are better at that than some of us veterans, because the game is still relatively new to them. So they're a little more antsy to get in all the time, making tweaks, making adjustments, making sure, double checking, triple checking. Where some of us old farts, we're like, yeah, I did 3 teams today. I got them all. And you didn't get for one. You screw yourself over. And I think that right there has a lot to do with some of the upsets that we see, where teams should clobber somebody, and then you get a nobody coming in and just rolling all over. You're like, yeah, somebody forgot to.
Yeah, well, like I said, my biggest thing is, I used to only run 2 teams, and now I think I'm up to, I just added Yost and Hayes, and I got back into Leahy. So I think I'm somewhere 8 to 10 teams now. I don't even know how many I've got, honestly. So now I've never had that many. So it's really, like I said, I get confused of who I got set and for what and when's. I don't know if this was a smart idea or not. I blame Grunt Boy, by the way, because he's the one trying to get me back into all this and play them in different. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Now there's some folks tuning in probably for the first time, don't know where you're from, what's about Mr. jhunterz. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Like I said, my name is Daryl. I'm from the crooked state of Illinois, born and raised here, and possibly looking to get out of here as soon as possible. I've got 2 kids, married. Kids are older. I got a 30-year-old and a 24-year-old. That makes me 49, but yes, we did have kids young. So 2 dogs, 2 cats, remodeling the house. At work, I work for a Ford dealership in Central Illinois here. I'm a body shop manager at a Ford dealership. So been there almost 23 years. So that's pretty much me. I do have 3 IDs. I don't try and hide them from anybody. Started out with Zerfo. That was my very first one I started with. I got my son kind of interested in it. We started his under jhunterz, and then he lost, once he seen how much effort he had to put into it, he was got that ID. And then I started a co-coach team with a guy that I used to play with, one of my big rivals back in the day. And we started a co-coach team. And so I've kind of took over that ID the last few years. I had to actually get a hold of him to find out what it was and the password and all that, because I couldn't even remember. It's been so long since we ran it. So I go by jhunterz most of the time. I'm also Zerfo, and then Herculoids is my third ID. So that way I'm all out in the open. Nobody thinks I'm cheating.
My record's so bad, nobody can accuse me of cheating. That's the God honest truth.
Well, I'm an elite mediocre coach.
There you go. There you go. Kaz, what do you like most about the GD setup that we've got?
Oh, definitely the camaraderie. And I know that's what everyone's been saying, but I think that's it. I mean, you can't, when you call out the dates, 2010, and I'm surprised it was 2010, but when you've been talking to the same people, whether once a week or once every 2 weeks, hey, and discussing certain things for that amount of time, it's you can't help but it's camaraderie. We're talking football, and I think whenever you talk football, that's a great thing, right?
Oh yeah.
We're talking football, and for me it was real interesting because some of the guys that my very first season, some of the guys that I was asking information, they're still around, which is good,
Yeah.
But that's what it is for me. I think just the challenge of trying to win. You see that man sitting right there talking about, I'm just a mediocre coach. Mediocre coaches don't win 3 and 4 championships in a row. And my one goal in Wilkinson at one point was, in fact, after I won the 2 in a row, I said, if I win one more, I'm going to Division I. I didn't win the next one, so it was it. So I said, I got to stick around now, But that's it. It's that challenge too, right? It's that challenge of how does Pete do what he does? How does jhunterz do what he does? How do these guys, that build a team to the point where it's not 1 or 2. 1 or 2 might be okay, but when you get to 3, 4, and 5, okay, there's something that they figured out.
Yep.
That I got to steal. There's something they figured out that I got to mine.
Especially if you're looking at their team makeup and you find that yours is very similar in the types of position makeup that you have. You've got basically the same number of linemen, same number of linebackers. You're running the same offense. And you look at the extended play-by-play and you're like, yeah, I'm throwing medium about the same way he does. The players are relatively the same, but he is just mopping the floor with me. What is it that he, like you said, they found that one little thing. And I don't think all the coaches have found that same one little thing. I think this game provides an opportunity where there are so many different aspects to it. Then somebody finds something that works for them. It may not necessarily work for somebody else, given the way they run their team or manage their players or the cores that they look for. So this game gives everybody an opportunity to find something that works for them and, lack of a better word, exploit it to their benefit. Years and years and years ago, it was just crazy to recruit a quarterback. You didn't do that. You recruited an offensive lineman because he had strength galore, he had technique galore, his game instinct was high, and when you converted him to a quarterback, those numbers didn't really change. So his numbers were better than some of the quarterbacks that were, senior quarterbacks. Well,
those days are gone.
Somebody ratted that out. And the same can be said for the days of taking a linebacker that had a lot of speed and a lot of strength. If you didn't need him blocking, you converted him to a running back, and he was hell on wheels. He was stronger than most running backs that are out there, had good game instinct. And a lot of times his work ethic shot through the roof because he went from being a linebacker to being a running back. So yeah, those games, I mean, those days where you could do that roster manipulation, if you will, are gone. But unfortunately, some of the new guys that are coming on now, they don't have that experience that we have. Some of those growing pains and matriculations to get to where we are now. This is what they know. It's just like then that was what we knew.
Well, there's one that I think that if you do it right, I think it pulls dividends. But it's very rare that you do it correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally, I haven't done it a whole lot. Actually, I have done it. I've done it a lot, but it hasn't always worked. I love getting that top DB with, with game instinct and tackling,
Mm-hmm.
and good strength, obviously, and then doing the linebacker conversion.
Yep.
And getting to that 90 on speed and redshirting him to get him back to where he should have been. It's helped me a little bit with the passing or
Yeah.
with the catching, with the receiving running backs. But it hasn't always worked because sometimes you get that guy and when you look at moving them, it's not worth it,
They drop in. Yeah.
If you could get a DB that you can move that way, and you can have a DB that's still going to be great while he's at defensive back and redshirt both of them at the same time. When you have two, I've always liked what I've gotten when I've had two, but very rarely do I ever have two, especially in Wilkerson with this recruiting,
Yeah, we can't be like Daryl and get it done as quick as he wants to.
Yeah, no, it's not happening this go around. Wilkinson's a completely different animal.
What is your secret? Do you have any experience on making recruit position changes that really pay off for you?
I don't. I rarely ever do it. Probably about the only one I do anymore is I'll take a linebacker and move him down to a defensive lineman. And their speed goes through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
The work ethic's usually pretty decent. You lose, tackling, I believe.
Yeah.
But you can regain that. It doesn't touch their strength. So I'll mess around with that because then you can get a good defensive end out of him, basically, is what you're looking for. So somebody his speed's going to be astronomical compared to what the rest of them that come in as a defensive lineman. So that's really about the only one I'll play with anymore. I usually, I go after what I go after and hopefully land something that's worth trying, because it just seems like it takes so much hit on a lot of the stuff that I don't want to give up. So,
exactly.
If I question it or if I'm hurting at the end, I will go and look at my roster and change one and see what it does, and see what actually takes a hit and about how much, so it gives me an idea of what I'd be looking at. But yeah, I rarely do it anymore. It's just not worth it to me. So I just try and recruit what I need.
I'll share something with especially for the newbies out there, is one of the things that I've learned a long time ago is once your season is over, and essentially now you're just waiting for recruiting to begin, and you can look and, mentally, or whether you're doing it on a spreadsheet or notebook pad or whatever, remove your seniors, you get a better view of what your team's going to look like the coming year. And that is a very good time to make some position changes, because you don't want to roll the season over and now your freshmen are sophomores and you're recruiting and you realize that you've got a hole somewhere, and the only way that you can fill it to the best given the situation that you screwed yourself into by misrecruiting something is by doing a position change. Well, now that the guy is a sophomore, his loss in certain categories will be greater than if you made the change as a freshman. So when the season's over with, don't just, wait for recruiting to start. Take a look at that roster. Give yourself a break, step away from it, go back a day or two later, take a look at it with fresh new eyes, and you may see something pop out. And also I'll share this on the recruit position change. One of my secrets is that I hate paying for kickers or punters. I refuse to pay big dollar for a kicker or punter. So what I will do is I will look for a quarterback who has an extremely high strength rating and a tech rating that is good, but not good enough to draw the eye of some of the coaches looking to make him a quarterback. And what I'll do is I'll get that quarterback and I'll redshirt, and I'll convert him to a kicker, and then I'll redshirt him. And in more cases than not, I have experienced that taking the quarterback and converting him to a kicker adds about 15% to his work ethic, and he will actually jump up. So the loss that you take in game instinct, which to me kind of helps identify, I'm thinking where, the kicker puts the ball when it comes to kickoff and stuff, and technique, is he kicking it solid? Is he missing a lot of kicks? I look at that as an easy payoff with increased work ethic. They shoot through the roof, all those stats that you lose, it makes it up in the long run, in the next year or so. And the other thing I do too is, and I used to be a proponent for either a punter or a kicker. Man, we're getting serious feedback. Can y'all hear that?
I can hear a little bit when you're talking. Yeah.
So maybe I just need to shut the hell up. But I'll run a punter and kicker now on most of my teams, because especially at D1, the quality between teams is the parity is so good that you get a lot of teams that are so much alike that a good punter, that extra 5, 10, 15 yards in punting can make a lot of games. So I'll carry a punter at the D1 level and a kicker. The lower levels, D2, I'll go with one or the other. And if I have to choose one or the other, it's a kicker. Because I'm thinking, in my opinion, a kicker makes a pretty good punter, but usually punters will make pretty good kickers. And I look for that strength, because that's the most important part, is the distance. I don't care if he's accurate from inside the 20. I'll take 50% from 55 yards. But anyway, I thought I'd share that with you guys. I noticed that nobody was taking notes, so y'all do the same thing too, right?
Oh, I was listening to everything you said there.
Uh-huh.
Everything
Good, it was all live.
Yeah. In fact, in recruiting this cycle, I honestly thought about switching my backup quarterback, not backup, but third string quarterback to a punter, just to avoid having to go for a punter.
Yeah.
But I thought about it. I said, let me just offer the 75% playing time and see what I get. But no, I definitely was taking notes.
And I'll do it with a new team. If I'm taking over a new team and they've got 52 quarterbacks on the team, I'll move some of those guys around just to fill up some depth. Even though they're going to suck, they're going to provide a little bit of depth, especially if the game is a blowout until halftime. Get the starters some rest. Daryl, what can you tell us about setting up your secret game plan that gets your offense rolling all the time? What do you look to do?
Yeah. I wish it rolled all the time. It would have helped today in a few games. I don't really. I've probably got just about as vanilla offense as anybody. I don't do any. I do change a little bit of stuff here or there if I go through and I see somebody's got their linebackers a certain way, or if they don't have any speed, or if they're low in a position, they don't have very many linebackers, or they don't have very many defensive backs. I'll make some changes there just to try and wear them out, and get people in the game, out of position and stuff of that nature. But that's what I got is what I bring, and there's no frills to it. Now there's different. That's the biggest thing I've liked about having different teams now, other than it's almost too confusing for me. I'm Polish, so I can't have too much stuff, going on at one time. But it does allow me to try some different things on different teams, running different offenses or running different defenses. I don't know how these guys do it all under one moniker, because it's, if you're trying to different, I guess the way I've got my game plan set up, I've got them for different situations. That way I can just go in, and if this ain't working, I just make the game plan, and I don't have to go in and change things within that playbook. I can go and just put in this game plan, and boom, boom, I'm done, because I already know what I'm wanting to do or what I'm wanting to change. So I've already got it set up that way. But people that run multiple teams on the same ID, if they don't run the same things, I don't know where they're putting everything. So, I'm like going, I could have, 50 playbooks and be fine. As long as I can get them set up to, for each individual thing that I'm wanting to attack or whatever. But that's what I like to be able to do with the multiple IDs, is I can try other things, and have different offenses. I can run a 4-3 in one and run a 3-4 in the other. And I've always been a 3-4 guy. Some of my other IDs, I am running a 4-3, trying to see which I think does better. Right now, it's a it's a crapshoot right now, because I don't really see too much of a difference. Of course, it might be all in the way I'm running it, to where they pretty much end up lining up basically the same. By the time it's done, and you're moving linebackers up or back, or all that kind of stuff. So, but it gives you a little bit of room to play and everything. But I mean, as far as offense and defense, I just look at tendencies and kind of adjust from there. But I mean, I don't have anything fancy. I wish I had a secret play or whatever. I've always thought it's weird, because within the last, I'd say 6 months, I've really kind of stepped back and taken a look, because I always thought, going by guess ratings and all this, I thought, hey, I'm a pretty good recruiter. I'm always in the top 5, top 10 or whatever. So I'm thinking, that's my strong suit. But the more I look at it, I'm starting to debate whether maybe recruiting is where I'm slacking a little bit, and my game planning is actually more sound than what I thought it was. So I've been trying to work on an area where I'm already doing all right, but I haven't been really putting in as much effort, like I said, in recruiting, and because I always thought I was decent there, but maybe there's just something there I'm missing. I'm thinking I'm doing all right, because I mean, even if you look, I love Bob's, ratings. You can't wait to go look at them, just like everybody else. Click the ads, guys.
Click them.
But you get caught up in it, and you think, okay, I'm in top 5. I'm a great recruiter. I'm doing good. I'm constantly in the top. So I'm doing good. But I'm bringing in some talent, maybe according to their numbers, but like you said, is it something that's actually working in my system as well as what I think it should be, or that it actually should be? So it's something I need to take a step back, and I've made some changes in this last recruiting, trying to look for some different things. So it'll be 3 or 4 years before I actually find out, or 3 or 4 seasons before I find out. So, but we're going to take a look at it and see if maybe that can't get us back to where we need to be. So,
recruiting is a beast all of its own, and it's probably one of the more attractive aspects of this game, this platform, is the recruiting. Like I said, it's the day signing starts, at 12 Eastern. It's like Christmas. You're waiting. You know what your list was? You're just hoping you got it. You hope you got them to sign. Kaz, is there something that you use as a strategy to kind of lock down a bunch of recruits on the front end, or do you shop throughout the whole recruiting period?
I've recruited 2 different ways. So in my younger days, I would actually just target. If I needed 12, I would target 6. And I would hit those 6 hard. I used to actually go, and I would offer, I would actually offer 4. Well, no, I would go 5 assistant visits, or 5, head coach visits, just right off to the guy I wanted. And but because I was targeting that small population, and then I was filling everything else on the back end with guys that trickled down, or somebody late that nobody paid attention to. Lately, what I've done is I've kind of probably, especially now that I'm in Wilkerson, it's kind of, I really try to stay within my. I don't even go 360. I try to stay within my 160.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, sometimes I get into arguments. Not arguments, but we go back and forth. You know, hey, you come to Philadelphia, you're gonna have to pay that tax. You know,
You sound like Tango.
exactly. You know, you come to the main line, you're gonna have to. You know, so it was good to hear him say that, because normally I'm like the only person saying that. You know, I actually got into a little. I got into a little back and forth with A&T last cycle. Not this one, but the one before, because there was a beautiful recruit. I think his work ethic was like 80 or something like that. It was something crazy. And I was eyeing him up, and then I went in on him the same cycle that A&T did, North Carolina A&T, and we both ended up. And I was like, I ended up losing out on him, but he wasn't my primary guy. He was, you know, he was just another guy. So I was like, all right, but he was great. You know, it's a type of recruit where you're like, man, if I redshirt him and get him playing time, he'll be the number one wide receiver. He'll be a monster senior year. I think that's something that I learned over the course of the game too, is that, you know, and in all honesty, I probably, it came from Jason Freeman, because back in the days of when I was in Yost, which is where I was for the most, and you know, it was myself and Chetty, and you know, we were over there, the only two left out of our conference, and I was like, who are these Wilkinson guys talking about this Wilkinson, man? You know, we gotta come on, Chet. You won a bunch of championships. Let's go show these. So we came over with the intention, all right, we're going to show these guys what we can do. But Jason Freeman came to Yost, and I don't know, man. It must have been 10 seasons with just click, 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 click. And that was right before he ended up, you know, he did what he did, obviously, in Wilkinson, and then he went to Texas. But when he was doing all of that, he was in Yost whooping up on us. And the one thing I learned from him that which goes back to my original point was, it definitely pissed me off every time I would see Jason Freeman's class or Jason Freeman's roster, and I would say, they had Division I quality ratings. How did they get there? How does he have his quarterbacks are all averaging 65, 70 in work ethic? How does this offensive lineman averaging? And I think that was the point where I said, look, I got to figure out some way, game planning and or otherwise, I got to figure out some way to start getting work ethic growth out of these guys. And I would say that was definitely a Freeman thing that I saw him do it. And I think Chetty saw the same thing, because I was like, hey, Chet, did you look at his roster? And Chetty said, he's like, yeah, I see what he's doing. And I was like, but how is he doing it? You know, and
secret.
And he's doing the same thing right now at Montana, guys. Don't fall for it. And jhunterz, I see you doing the same thing there too. Because
not this season.
And I definitely see the work ethic. Okay, so I mean, that's the thing. You know, it's there's a lot of ways to do it, but there's some very good coaches. There's some great coaches doing it by targeting. Like, in honesty, I don't think I see Jason Freeman's not stressing, but he'll go and get that. You know, he'll get that guy that I would say is probably fringe, but he'll say, hey, man, he's got a 65 worth ethic. Oh, I'm going to be able to do something with him. You know, so, and I'm sure jhunterz is doing the same thing, because like I said, if you look at his roster, I know what you're doing, jhunterz. But you're not in my division, so it's okay. You know, hey.
I might be before it's over with. Good grief.
Man, guys, I hate to do it, but we've got about a minute left of record time for the show. I definitely appreciate y'all coming on, and I'm working on getting this so we can do it longer, because I enjoy doing it, and I hope everybody else is benefiting from it. And if any of the people watching this, there's a YouTube episode later on. If you learn something, if it generates some questions, you know, pass the word around. Well, we'd love to have our two panelists here and have 4 or 5 people in with us, being able to ask them questions. And that will generate more motivation for me to make this even an hour-long program. So until then, gentlemen, again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for your great insight. I appreciate it. And hope to have you back on some other time. Good luck to you guys.
Hey, thanks, Magic. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate what you're doing.
Hey, well, there's the boss.
But teaching by beating.
There's the boss. Guys, thank you so much. Until next time, I'm Magic, and you've been watching This, That, and the Other.